leaders. I want to turn to you, Ms. Solomon. We heard earlier that the current climate has, if you will, intimidated small donors from participation. If we look at the participation of small donors over the last decade, has participation grown or declined?
So small dollar donors, I would say, has slightly increased over the past decade. So I don't think that it necessarily excludes small dollar donors. What I would like to say is that small dollar donors feel that they don't have the same level of impact. If you're contributing $25 or $75 or $100, and as opposed to somebody who's contributing $25,000, $50,000, $1 million, who do you think people feel that their elected officials will pay more attention to? And so the question, I think, is important, but it's also the fact that these large donations drown out the small dollar donors as individuals, and they feel like they have less power in deciding what happens to our country.
Ms. Solomon, I think you stated it very well. I think the numbers of small donors have actually increased very significantly over the last decade. It's not that they're reluctant to participate. They're participating in significant numbers, but they are concerned that whereas they might be able to donate $25 or $100 or maybe $200 and be disclosed, that there are groups out there that contribute millions of dollars, and that those folks are going to get a lot more attention from members of Congress. Ms. Solomon, as we think about the principle of government of, by, and for the people, the whole idea that power flows up from the people, having power flow down from massive corporations in massive donations, is that a conflict with the fundamental premise of our democratic republic?
I believe that it does. It's a huge conflict. And I think part of the challenge that we face as a country, quite honestly, is that the lack of trust in government has increased so significantly because of a lack of transparency. People question the motivations behind decisions that are being made by their elected leaders. And that's concerning. When elected leaders, their integrity is questioned, we can all agree that we're going to disagree, right? We know that happens in this building every single day. But the lack of trust is so great at this point that people are actually questioning the integrity of their elected leaders. Are they good people? Are they bad people? How are they influencing the election? And they believe that oligarchs and corporations are influencing your decisions. And that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Weiner, we heard before that it's easy to draw a distinction between ads that advocate for a policy and ads that are campaign involved. This ad broadens, this act, DISCLOSE Act, broadens communications broadens to communications for disclosure that promote, attack, support, or oppose a candidate. It doesn't broaden it to, as I understand it, to policy advocacy. Am I correct in that reading?
Yes, Senator, you are correct. And in fact, it's the election of a candidate. So I would say that there has to be a reference to an election, and there has to be the promotion of electoral result. And I do think that that's a crucial distinction that narrows the scope of the bill.
Why is it legitimate, Mr. Weiner, for us to ask for disclosure when an ordinary citizen donates more than $200?
Well, I think, Senator, that disclosure arms the voting public with information, and that we've long understood that candidates and others should disclose the sources of their funding, and that was an appropriate threshold for that. I think that, and again, I come back to the words of Justice Scalia that requiring people to stand up for their public acts fosters civic courage, without which democracy is doomed. And I think that is a well-established norm in our political process, and one that has become very important to the integrity of our elections.
And Mr. Mangan, Montana, I recall at one point was controlled by I believe the proper term was the Copper Kings. And the citizens of the state said, this is wrong. We need to have our state government controlled by the people. So it's a particular example. And does it therefore make sense that, if you will, candidates in Montana, the individual donations to their campaign over $200 are disclosed, but if an independent campaign receives massive donations, that those donations can come directly from a very, very powerful corporation?
Well, in Montana, of course, citizens have voiced their feelings very strongly, and we haven't seen the type of backlash that's been discussed here today, and we've had disclosure for a number of years on both election and electioneering communications. As far as any local races or statewide races, all donors are required, over $250 or more, are required for committees to file and report contributions and expenditures. As simple as that. And Montanans have embraced that. And again, we haven't seen any backlash as far as the things that we've heard today in Montana. It's just the opposite. Montana's come to expect it and want that disclosure.
Thank you. Senator King.
I just want to follow up very briefly with Senator Cruz. I think he makes an interesting proposal. I would argue that we have what he proposed, except we don't have the disclosure. We have unlimited